pedal when I'm getting to the bag, ayy. Got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast, ayy, ayy. Let them all cross. If they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss, ayy.
This episode is brought to you by SPI Logistics, the premier freight agent logistics firm in North America. For over 40 years, SPI has been diligently building the most successful freight agent network to provide first-class relationships for our shippers, receivers, and carrier partners. We are more than another transportation network. We are a dedicated team of professionals united by one singular purpose, and that is to expedite our agents' success. All of our agents are set up for success on day one, as they are provided with a full suite of support staff that is ready to assist them with everything from after-hours emergencies to financial and administrative needs on a no-fee basis. This way, you can focus on continuing to grow your business. There is no financial risk to start, and you have the ability to earn up to 75% in commissions. If you are looking to take control of your financial future and build your business with the backing of one of the most successful logistics firms in North America, visit www.spi3pl.com to learn more. Do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I do say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, you guys, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Monday, everybody. I got a very special guest for you guys here today. Somebody who I've followed for a long time, connected with him over the years, and he's got some really exciting things that he's releasing here right now. And, you know, rates, like getting access to freight, I would say if I was to break down the amount of questions that I get asked, how do I find shippers, is probably like the number one question that I've always been asked out there. Number two is how do I quote? So we're going to talk about a lot of this, a lot of rate intelligence. And I have my friend Sam Tibbs on the show today. I almost said the phone, man. We're too old for this stuff, Sam. So Sam, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today.
I appreciate it. Yeah. And I got a few years on you. So yeah, but it's my pleasure. I appreciate the opportunity.
No, absolutely, man. And I'm glad we were able to make this happen. You know, when we, the last time we saw each other in person was in April out in San Antonio this year. And, you know, you were like, hey, I got this thing coming on. It's not official yet. It's going to be official here soon. And, you know, I'm really glad we were able to take that time to make this happen today. But Sam, I want to start this out, man, because it's your first time on the show. How'd you get your start in freight? What brought you into the industry?
You know, like many, essentially, so my family's outside the Chattanooga area, and I was living overseas. I used to be a finance professor. Family emergency, you got to come in and take care of family. So when you do that, when you leave academics promptly like that, you can't just get an academic position because they're always planning semesters in advance. Mm-hmm. At first, I thought it was like, it's terrible, but you got to do what you got to do for family. But I got the good fortune of starting a position at Covenant Transport, who's right here working on the data science team, later on in Freight Waves, and just on from there. So it was really just kind of chance, just because of essentially where I live. Chattanooga area, it's Freight Alley. It's you know, per capita, sorry, Chicago, but at least per capita, we are the freight city. Yeah.
No, I mean, I don't know of anyone in this industry that hasn't been touched by the city of Chattanooga in some way, shape, or form that works out here, right? It's like whether there's a satellite office there, they started there, or what. It's there's no denying it, right? Like we have the joke out here in Phoenix, man. It's called Freight Alley. We're the real transportation capital of the world is Freight Valley, because they call Phoenix the Valley of the Sun. So that's just an inside joke out here for all our West Coasters, man. But so like, what does a data science role look like in a transportation company? Because, you know, kind of like what we were talking about, Sam, before we started, there's so much information that's out there, but, you know, a lot of the larger companies, they operate at a different level, right? And their strategy is vastly different than the 90% of the industry that is small business out there. So what does a data science role look like, and how does that really work in a trucking company?
Oh, great question. So first I'll start and say that when I first applied for jobs when I moved here, and this gives a little more background, I couldn't get an interview for like 12 months because I was applying for finance jobs. My finance background didn't put me well into finance jobs. So at the time, I didn't even know what data science was.
Yeah.
I saw an article, sexiest job in America, something like that. It said data science. So I changed my resume because a lot of my academic research and the models that are used is data science work. So I immediately got an interview at FreightWaves, right? Even before they had their Series A, and I had an interview at Covenant, and I had the pleasure of working at Covenant Transport, then later at FreightWaves. But with data science work, essentially, in all facets of your life, there is data being produced. And my goal in that function is to help make that data better for the customers, for the users, for all those people that are involved. So in the case of Covenant Transport, I built an example of profit analyzer, which we would look in detail the profitability the trucking company was making by lane in real time, considering all the cost functions, the time, and the cost of a reefer versus van, et cetera. And I better able to make, provide input to what make better decisions for the trucking company. So I'm very proud of that. That was the first thing. And I decided too, that when I stepped into this trucking role, I'm never going to be unemployed again. I'm going to make sure I read everything, do everything, anything I can do to make myself better, because I got a family to take care of, and I'm not going to be in that same position again. Because those 12 months of being unemployed was worse than any job I've had. Digging ditch hole, fence post would be a better job than being unemployed. So anyway, that's a little intro.
No, I share that same sentiment. You know what I mean, Sam? Like when I first started my company and everything, I delivered pizzas at part-time for, 8-9 months just to make sure that my bills were paid at that time. And, 100%. And it's like, that pain you're describing right there, Sam, is like, that is way worse to me than any opinion anybody else would have by what I have to do to provide for my family. And, newsflash for those out there who might be embarrassed about that, real people out there who are actually building stuff respect that way more than you could ever know, because it is doing whatever it takes. And that's a skill set that I'm sure you're already realizing now about going out and starting your company. So Trochi, let's talk about this, man. What is this? What kind of inspired that to go from, hey, I want to go out on my own and make this happen?
100%. So, a little background. When I started, because my economics background, finance background, I started in pricing, and I worked at Covenant, worked at FreightWaves, worked at Leaf Logistics, worked at Clyde Trucks. Then last I was at Triumph Financial, working on a rating product for them, and I loved the work. It was very interesting. I disagreed with some of how it was calculated, or how it was done. I shouldn't say calculated, but the data source. But what was very clear to me in that process is that people want a different rate product. They want additional options. They know the 800-pound gorilla in the room is DAT, and they want something to compete with it based on the pricing pressure. So when, Triumph Financial, with the rates down, they cut my position, they cut my project, and I was on free reign, but I knew what every broker was telling me about what they wanted additional products. So I reached out to my friends and said, hey, I've wanted to build something a long time. I think this is an opportunity. It's in my lap. I've done it. I've had all the experience. So I decided, hey, let's take a risk. I don't, and importantly, one thing that was a really driving force is I don't want to be on my deathbed, thinking, well, what if I tried that? You know what I mean? So, even if this, I don't believe it's going to fail. I think I'm past that point now, but even if it had, I'd still have the, well, I gave it a shot, the man in the arena. That's something that Triumph talks about. And I huge respect, that, I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to give it my all. And so that's the plan. That's what's going on. And I'm blessed in being able to do it.
Dude, that is such the right mentality with all of this, right? Like I don't know. And I've kind of adopted that mentality back when I had first moved out west, right? So like I'm born and raised in northern Wisconsin, small town USA. And after I graduated college, I was lost, man. And I was like, dude, I got to go try something different. I got to go try something new. And my older brother actually had moved away with his wife. And he was like, Chris, he's like, just go try. He's like, give it 2 years. Worst case scenario, you can go back and you'll never be able to say that you at least didn't try. And I've kind of kept that mentality because I've been out west now for 15 years. And I'm like, that's my mentality with a lot of stuff is I'll never regret trying. I'll never regret laying it all out there, because you're right. Like nobody actually knows if it's going to work. And that's why, that was kind of like what inspired my post last week is that's why so many dreams go to die between idea and execution is because there is no guarantee that any of this is going to work out, even for the largest companies out there, right? Like There's companies that have raised hundreds of millions of dollars and gone bankrupt within 24 months, right? And you're sitting there as like a bootstrap founder. I'm like, how do you blow that capital, right? Like, how do you do that? And that's why I love bootstrapping so much more than taking on investment. I feel like I could deploy a $10 million investment a lot better today because I've had 5 years of, making $1 out of 15 cents and, that hustle and that grit that comes along with it. But that mentality alone, Sam, will save you in those inevitable dark days that will come, right? Because I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, Sam, everything's going to be sunshine. It's going to be the hardest thing you've ever done in your life. But there is so much of an opportunity out there from data. A lot of my friends who are founders of companies, right? Trucking companies, freight brokerages, that is like 90% of the conversations we have together is, hey, what are you doing with your data? How are you deploying it? And then how are you packaging that out and selling that, right? Because like ultimately we need to sell peace of mind to our customers. As a broker, I need to sell peace of mind. Like finding trucks, having access to trucks is literal table stakes, right? Like that's going to McDonald's and having them being like, hey, isn't it great that we're selling hamburgers today? It's literally the purpose of your business. But I look at this as like, what are you going to do with your data? Because we're at a point in time now with AI, like you don't need this isn't knocking any data scientists out there. You have technology at your fingertips that you can drop all your data in and say, create a lane analysis for me. What is the most profitable thing? And I guarantee ChatGPT within 5 minutes, it's going to take all of that information and lay all of that out for you, right? And it's like, what are you going to do with that? Because for me, I want to sell stability to my customers. I want to bring consistency to my customers because I feel like that's ultimately, Sam, what they're looking for. If I'm going to quote them $1,000 on a lane, hypothetically between LA and Phoenix, they want it to stay at $1,000. They don't want to see it jack up to $1,400 or anything like that. We want to remove that roller coaster. And I feel like with the amount of data and information that's out there, you should be able to sell that peace of mind to your customers.
Yeah, 100%. So a point I'll make is that, and the starting point is that brokers create and own the data, yet they're never rewarded for it. So and let me also make the point that if I think of like an oil refinery is relatively simple tech. It's not, going to Mars or whatever the case, but a refinery cannot produce or not create anything without the oil, right? And so the current situation the brokers have is they create the data and then they easily share it for a discount, for a pittance, and they don't get the full benefit of it. Mm-hmm. And because they don't have that relationship with the people they supply the data to, it limits the products that can be created from it. So in this situation, I'll further say that if you look at, LLMs, you look at Anthropic, OpenAI, Grok, whoever else, those are competing models. And the only reason any of those competing models exist and can function is because of the data. Mm-hmm. Without the data, none of those models would be able to function or exist. You know, so it's a reason why Reddit, for example, would just collect simple text from people is worth billions and billions of dollars. Yeah. Right. All those data sources are extremely valuable. Brokers have not taken advantage of the position they have with that data. And as things get more complex, if you look at what Britton Ladd's saying, or you look at DAT's acquisition and what Britton Ladd says about it, it's clear to me the data owners, as long as they work together, they're the ones that have the greatest power in this situation. If they don't, well then, as Britton Ladd will say, brokers are taxis and Uber is going to make them go away. I don't believe that to be the case. Brokers are too hardworking, too adaptable, and they're sitting on a huge oil field. As long as they work that data in, they can, convert their truckload cost center to a profit center and benefit from what they create. Yeah.
No, I agree. And my stance is the early adopters of the digital freight broker, the Convoys of the world, the Uber Freights and other companies out there, they were just too early. Somebody's going to lock this in. Like, there's no doubt in my mind, there's too much repeatable, scalable freight out there. Like, and I saw this in the dry van world, the food world, man, there's too many loads a day that are all 26 pallets, 40,000 pounds, one pick, one drop between Atlanta and Chicago. You can automate the shit out of that. You can automate that. There's going to be drivers who are tech savvy, who are going to want that. And that's coming, right? Like, that's a very unpopular opinion out there. But if you're a broker and you think for 1 second that cannot be built, you will be out of business one day. That might be a bold claim to some of you, but there is an opportunity to do that. It started, it worked, right? Like, I'm not here to argue about how a company failed, run out of money or anything like that, but there was product adoption out there. There were a lot of people out there that loved that model. So just because they were early doesn't mean it's not going to come back and it's not going to eventually hit. I truly think that it is.
Yeah. The marketplace model is old as time, you know? And so in the case, what I view as how Convoy failed or others failed, they simply didn't reach a critical mass.
Yep.
You know, if you look at Uber spent over $30 billion, you know, subsidizing rate and getting drivers before they had people and all those sorts of things, so that they had those network effects in that marketplace. That marketplace, I think, will exist with freight. Mm-hmm. What I hear back from brokers and what we're building, you know, and this 80% of it will be owned by brokers. Brokers have told me in the past, until very recently, they said, hey, just work on, you know, the first thing they say is raise money from us, not VCs. The other thing they say is just build the rate product first. We've been promised so many things. We've heard so many things. Let's build the rate product first, and then let's look at other things. Mm-hmm. But the recent news and movements by DAT and, you know, and the claim that Expedia, US Bank, and AI with DAT should be the model for building this marketplace has given a real, quote, jolt to other brokers to say, well, maybe we should consider that sooner. And, quote, this is going to be the most transformative thing we see. So the question is, again, who builds the marketplace? Who owns it? Well, the people that have the data and the best data. It's not taking pictures of where trucks will be and processing petabytes of pictures all the time. It's the structured data sets that brokers already have, and they see it at booking date where the truck will next be empty in 3, 4, or 5 days. Mm-hmm. That's the marketplace vision I see. But again, brokers own 80% of it. However brokers want it, that's how brokers will get it.
Yeah, Sam, that's one thing that I think is going to be like the true next wave of information out there is predictive analytics, right? It's an actual capacity report based on trucks in progress as opposed to historical and guesstimates. You know what I mean? It's that buying confidence and that selling confidence that comes along with it. But so how does this work, man? How does Chris Jolly, as a freight broker, come to you and be like, hey, Sam, I have all these lanes. I'm quoting all this freight. How does that work when am I just like API connecting to you and sending you all of my data? What does that look like?
Yeah, so I'll start to say that so there's 6 of us, 4 PhDs. Our CTO was the one that led the software team that built Sonar. He built their initial API. Okay. So we have a system set up API where we connect with brokers. They send their data. We push back to their TMS, the rate information. And to be clear, that's still in progress. We're still probably 6 months to a year from having a product. But of course, you have to have the data before you can get the product. So we're in progress. One of our advisors is Professor Jason Miller. The way we started this process is I stupidly, and I'm sure you made mistakes too, we all do, but for the first 7 months of me doing this, I talked to brokers and say, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is why it matters, purely from an economist type perspective. And brokers would say, yes, I love it. And then I'd say, all right, let's get on the sprint. We have this set up. Let's add you. And they'd say, all right, let's start next month. And the next month turns into next month, turns into next month. So I spoke to Andrew Peterson, who built the Freight Logistics Optimization Works program, which had shipping data when the ships were backing up in port. And he said, all right, I had the same issue. Here's how I fixed it. I got everyone in the room together, and you got all the data providers, in this case, brokers in the room together, and they commiserated. And they said, yeah, I don't like this. This should be different. And boom, it started happening. So I held a conference about a month and a half ago where Jason Miller came in and gave some presentations on why the benefits of this. And he also talked about tariffs and other things. Yeah. And boom, now we have 5 to 6 billion in our initial cohort. They're in that process of redlining contracts and et cetera. And I'm going out to visit a few locations here in the next week and a half and so. And so now it's gone from, hey, this is how it is, to, hey, they actually picture it. They actually, see the process happening. That's how we're moving forward. And we'll do the second cohort in probably 2-3 months. And this time it's probably going to be Chicago, but we're going to hold a vote on it on LinkedIn shortly.
Okay. No, so it's essentially back in the farming world of northern Wisconsin, it's like a co-op essentially, right? Where it's like there's a bunch of people supplying it in. For those of you who aren't privy to how milk is brought in from the farms, most of them, you guys, are a bunch of local farms are sent into a co-op that's there for milk, grain, a bunch of stuff like that. And then they take it, and then, a big supplier comes in and buys that inventory and, resells it out for processing and stuff like that. And so essentially that's what it seemingly is. So like for the most part, you guys are taking a lot of it, and this is a pricing focused tool for the most part, right? And then is this more of helping you quote out for near term, long term? Is it, obviously it's taking historical data, and then it's spitting out like a future of like estimate on where you see things trending?
So the initial is more short term. We definitely, me and many members of the team have done predictive modeling for predicting future rates, et cetera. That'll be part of it as well. The biggest change is that all our data we get immediately after booking date. And another difference is, since brokers are rewarded for the data they share, they're able to share it more timely. They also share, is a liftgate, team, hazmat, specialized, overweight, anything that affects pricing that currently a lot of data providers will give you the 25th percentile, the average, and the 75th, and they can't show you the full distribution. We'll show the full distribution so you can see how that shifts. You can see what the tails look like. We'll give a version that doesn't clean it. Then we'll give a version that removes all those additional type non-standardized loads. We'll show the actual trucks in and out of market. We'll give you certain options like, let's say you want to see the quote without anything booked 12 hours before pickup, because that short lead time is pushing up the price. You want to drop that out?
Yeah.
That's fine too. We have all the lead time information. So essentially, this system fixes the two problems brokers commonly complain about. One is they say, there's a specialized rate in that flatbed, or there's a hazmat in that van, or those rates aren't right. And the other thing is they don't like that they pay for it. They're literally giving the oil to the ground. They get a discount for supplying data. Then they make nothing when it's sold to carriers and shippers, assuming it is. So in this case, they benefit from the data they create, and they get a superior product because they're willing to create and willing to share superior data. And that opens up a lot of our other product opportunities as well, including the marketplace we discussed a little bit.
No, definitely. What do most people get wrong about their data, Sam? When they're coming to you and saying one thing or another, what do most people get wrong about their data?
I think that's tough. I think most people don't appreciate how valuable it is, or at least they've settled for what they're provided for it. So I know either simply they don't see the value, or it's like I think about being in high school and dating, and you're dating someone, and hey, you're dating, you're going out and what but you've settled. It's not really what's the best interest for you because it's easy. And I think a lot of the relationships that brokers have with their data providers, it's just the way it's always been. But once you tell them and show them that, you can have a superior rate product. If you wish to build a marketplace, you can. If you wish to, like 59% of ton miles are from, we know this from Jason Miller, are from manufacturing. If you want to have a product that is a real-time ISM PMI number based on putting that data together and seeing what trucks coming out of manufacturing facilities, you can produce that and have that revenue share of that as well. If some future date you follow Brad Jacobs or what Craig Fuller tried to build, you want a freight future pricing source, you want the revenue for that, and you want to be able to plan that out for your business as well, you can do that too. But all those opportunities can exist, and others I know I'm not thinking of that brokers will tell me they want to have. Those can only exist for high quality data. And if you don't use your high quality data and take advantage of it, extract that value from it, then someone else will.
I think from my seat, I think that there is a lot of misinterpretation on how to actually quote freight. There's too much of an emphasis, Sam, on a national average out there, right? And people live and die by that. And that's why it's like, I try and like, anytime I see stuff out there, like, oh, the national average is at $2.20 a mile. A hypothetical example here, you guys. I look at that, I'm like, that is, yes, it's good to know, but that is not applicable to the majority of the relationships that most transportation providers have with customers. I would like, and you might know this, Sam, how much freight moves out there that is published RFP rates, for example? How much of that is actually that how much of the market makes that up? Do you know? So
when you say published, you mean,
here,
published RFP rate? I mean, I can tell you like spot is, anywhere from 10 to 20% of the 15 to 25% of the 400 billion for-hire market. But from RFPs, you mean on the shipper to broker basis or shipper to carrier basis?
Let's toss in both there, because I think like when you're out there and you're looking at published rates, for example, that is, that long-term pricing that comes on out there in the market. It's a different sales strategy. It's a different style. The majority of the freight that a lot of us are given access to early on in a relationship with the customer, and some customers only live on the spot market, is that it's that last minute stuff. And, if you're out there and you're trying to price freight based on a national average of, $2 a mile or whatever, again, this is just a hypothetical example, you're missing out. You're going to underquote your freight. Like if you're quoting Phoenix to LA, for example, it's 300 miles. You're going to pay in most markets, maybe not today, but in most markets, it's going to be exponentially more expensive to ship that out for a Friday to a Monday than it is for a Thursday to Friday or another day of the week. Or, it's that gray area miles, right? Most drivers for weekends runs, they want miles, right? They do not want to take something for 1,000 miles. They want 1,500 plus miles so they can run out there. That's going to negatively affect your price if you're going out there and you're bidding at that published rate that you can see out there in certain examples. So it's like, to me, data that you see out there is a reference point, but like you need to understand the factors that come in with it, right? That's just the miles here. We're not talking loading times, unloading times. If that has to pick up on Friday at 8 a.m., dude, all of that stuff, right? There's so many different factors that come into this. And that's why it's like, I see this out there and I'm like, yes, it's pertinent information. It's good to know, but is that applicable to your customer? What are the load requirements that come along with this? And then again, how much lead time do you have with this? Is this we need a truck here in the next hour? Or is this hey man, this is for next week. Come in, you got plenty of time to work it. It's available to ship any day in the next 4 days. So there's a lot of different parameters. And that's why it's like when I'm sitting here and I see a lot of information out there, there's so much finality behind it. Like, this is where the market's at. False. I am here to tell you that is unequivocally a false statement as applicable across the board. All right. There is so much information that you need to take. And again, you need to be able to decide within less than 3 minutes what you're going to quote on that customer. Because if you're not, trust me, if you're competing with me, I've already quoted that customer. I've already had it.
So several things there. I mean, you're hitting a lot of great points. With the lead time that you expect, it's also what rejection rate do they expect? Are you going to, do they expect 100% coverage and short lead time? Another thing too is that at Covenant, I produced a heat map that showed it divided up day of the week and divided up 7 a.m. to 9 a.m., 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., and then 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. And if you're in those high traffic times of 7 to 9 or 4 to 6 p.m. type range on Monday or Friday especially, your pricing, or at least your travel, miles per hour on average, is substantially different. And of course, that affects your utilization, that affects your cost, your fuel consumption, everything, your driver's time, hours of service. But there's not a great data source to have all the information available. What we're proposing, we're going to put together 70 billion of the spot market, the 110 billion of the spot market, and we're going to have substantial data. And how do we get all that market together, our market data together? Because brokers own 80% of the company. You come in, if you're the largest, you get the largest equity. You're second largest, you get second largest equity. And then you have all that data to make all those intelligent decisions. And this is important for multiple reasons. One is, of course, if you can offer a carrier a better load, right? They have less deadhead. It's more on what route they want, etc. You have the information, then they'll take a lower rate because they can have the same or lower OR based on that better match that fits their needs. The other thing too is that the driver is driving less time. For if you cut the deadhead from, let's say, 35% to 25% for the average owner operator, their average load is an hour less. Mm-hmm. They get non-monetary benefits to that, which means they can run more miles, more loaded miles, I should say, have a better lifestyle, or use more of that utilization. All those things come into play. But again, you can't do that or make those great decisions unless in advance you have that data and you understand your data and how these different situations affect what pricing should be for you. Because it's not just simply the loaded miles. It's the time, what rate you're going to travel, what's your weight, what's the change in altitude, all sorts of things have to be considered that go into that pricing component that's not being considered now. It's kind of estimate, but eventually all those pricing things will come into play in a more quantifiable perspective, but not under the current system. Because the current system, brokers don't share that data with DAT or others because they don't get rewarded for it. And that causes a lot of siloing of data and a lot of dead weight losses.
Do you, as we're kind of, this flew by, I knew it wasn't a flyby, Sam, but I want to kind of wrap up and I want to ask you this. What do you think is the biggest threat to the freight market over the next 6 to 12 months? What do you think most people are predicting that are wrong?
I mean, I continue to, let's say, PMIs come out, below 50 last, contractions last 5 months.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see that really changing. Higher steel and aluminum prices are going to make that worse. Downstream production, so that those lower prices, those tariffs on aluminum and steel do affect aluminum steel producers, but everything downstream gets hurt. And that's a lot of manufacturing capacity. The other thing is, the jobs numbers are indicating that, things are pretty negative, and including the previous revisions that happen. And those revisions happen all the time. They're a normal part of the process, because you make the best decision you can with the data you have. As more comes in, you make the better decision. I don't know that people are getting it wrong. I still think that, I'm not seeing any uptick meaningful, until 2026. But again, my current role isn't to predict the rates, but I'll say too, our advisor is Jason Miller. I went after him because I've seen him slap, or talk about, this provider of data, et cetera, did it wrong. This is why, and going through details. And I told him, as a friend and as a business partner, I said, please be my advisor, because I don't want to ever be on that side of the conversation with you. Yeah. So for those details, I'll say, if you guys aren't following Professor Jason Miller, you 100% should be. He is the data trucking expert in the room.
I 100% agree with that. I think Jason Miller is a phenomenal follow out there. And, I also look at it as you need to look at different viewpoints in the industry, because I feel like at the end of the day, and I think this is what most operators' biggest threats are in their business is they only listen to the echo chamber. They only listen to people who agree with them and say what they say out there. And I do not think that makes you a solid operator. You need to listen to dissenting viewpoints. You need to listen to polar opposite viewpoints, and it will either solidify your stance or it will make you see things through a different lens. Because I feel like I've been saying this for almost a year now. I don't think anything's changing anytime soon in the freight market. I do not at all. There has to be an exodus of capacity to show any meaningful change out there. Otherwise, this is the way things are going to be for the foreseeable future. I've been kind of saying 2026, but at this point, man, I have not seen any event or indicator out there that shows that anything's going to change in the next 12 months outside of a mass exodus of capacity.
Yeah. And some people are hanging out their hat on English language proficiency requirements, but we're just not seeing that reduction.
My biggest counter argument to that is the enforcement of it. All right. You are actually needing the Department of Transportation to enforce that on every single time out there. All right. And that is what I don't see. You can follow the party line of the states out there that might do it. But, again, you guys, this is coming from somebody who actually books freight. I have not come across that many providers out there where the driver is not overly qualified to haul that freight. So it's like, I do not think that that's going to be as big of a deal as people think. Now, again, I could be wrong, but from what I'm seeing out there, I feel like the biggest thing is the overall enforcement of it. And I just don't see it actually being rolled out to a point where that's going to make that but much of a meaningful change out there.
Yeah, I agree.
So, well, hey, Sam, I appreciate your time, man. I'm going to have to get you back on as things continue to develop on your end. How does anybody reach out to you, man? If they want to sign up, start becoming a part of this, man, how do they reach out to you and find out more?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, or you can go to just email us at info@trochi.ai, or just Google, you'll cross me. And appreciate your time, Chris. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
No, absolutely, Sam. Thank you so much for joining. If you can't find Sam out there, you guys hit me up. I will gladly put you guys in direct contact with him. But that's going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. As always, if you got value in what you heard, subscribe to the show, you guys. And if you're feeling really ambitious after this one, rank the show on iTunes and Spotify, because if you see value, your network's going to see it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back with a bang, window down, yelling out money, anything. Hey, ooh, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when I'm getting